Welcome to Lovin' the Love Boat, a fond and funny look back on the world's greatest cruise ship-based television show. I'm Istvan, singer, songwriter, and TV fanatic.
And I'm Michelle, pop culture enthusiast.
Join us as we relive episodes of one of the most watched TV series of all time.
Occasionally deviating to pop culture charts unknown.
So come aboard, we're expecting you for another edition of
Lovin' the Love Boat.
Welcome, you guys. We hope you are well rested and that you made it through the entire marathon, episode 42. All right, now, the last episode, you guys, I guess, Michelle, was it? It was a two-parter. This is what I think you've told me since then, right?
Yes, and I was looking at, it was split into 2 consecutive Saturdays, so that is why it was so long. But it was a two-parter, cliffhanger.
So our fear of Fantasy Island being preempted did not happen.
It did not. It was regular scheduled programming.
Well, that's almost the best of both worlds, because I did hate when a show didn't come to a close. I hated when it was going to be like the following week normally. But you know what, Michelle, I wanted to give you a compliment.
Oh.
I think that you always do a great job with all of our guests, but I was a little surprised from the last episode, and you want to know why?
Why?
I revealed to everybody that I wished that I had an older brother in the form of someone like who? Michael Lembeck. Why did you fail to tell me a very key bit of information about my big brother?
What was that?
Why didn't you tell me who his dad is?
Who is his dad?
Does the name Harvey Lembeck ring a bell?
Yeah, it does. Actually, I think I knew that. I just forgot to bring it up.
Do you know who that is?
Not exactly.
Does the character name Eric Van Zipper ring a bell?
Really?
Yes!
That doesn't. Them rotten ciphers ain't gonna get away with it this time. Us good guys are gonna save sugar from them beach bums what don't work.
Boss!
Our work is never done. Our work is to protect the weak and the innocent. Fall in!
I'm very disappointed in myself. Like, beyond disappointed in myself, because I religiously have watched all those movies.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle loves those movies. That's why we were psyched when Frankie Avalon and Annette Vunicello were coming on to separate episodes. Michelle owns all of those on
Take
DVD,
my
I
pop
believe.
culture card away.
That was his dad. Harvey Lembeck is Michael Lembeck's father, and it's like he's amazing.
I remember when I was looking, they mentioned his dad was an actor, but I just didn't delve any deeper into it, and now I really wish I had.
You're never going to live this one down. I'm sorry.
I won't. I feel like I need to jump off the Lido.
No.
Now.
I'm just saying it just was a weird oversight, and I wanted to definitely mention it because, boy, oh boy, the Lembeck family, I could have been one of the siblings.
Well, Eric Von Zipper.
Could have been my father. It would have been so great.
That could have been your grandfather.
Oh, my God, that would have been awesome. All right, so you guys, here we are, episode 43, a good old-fashioned, regular-timed episode that at first I was on the fence about, but then I do think that I really actually like it. You are, what is your take on this one?
I liked it. I just think it was just kind of uneventful for the most part. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't like over the top.
Okay, hey, if you think Oscar Goldman with a plastic arm and a weird...
You know, it's funny. I was just going to quiz you and ask you if you knew what he was from.
Yeah.
You passed
are you kidding me?
I know. If you didn't, I was going to give you some major grief.
All right. Well, we're letting the cat out of the black gloved bag right now. So let's get into episode 43. We are glad you guys are here with us. Here we go. Today we have Best of Friends, written by Fred S. Fox, and guess who's back, Michelle? Seaman Jacobs. Secondly, we have Aftermath. This is one of those fancy ones. Teleplay by Lee Aronson, story by Sue Masters and John Walsh. And thirdly, we have Dreamboat, written by Mr. Bruce Howard. Now, Michelle, who are our guests on today's show?
Well, you've already basically touched on the first person I have, Richard Anderson, who played Dr. Art Akers.
Yes.
I think I know my next Halloween costume.
Well, that's the thing, you guys. I wished that I was the $6 million man growing up. If you are my age and you watched the TV that I did, Sasquatch, Steve Austin, all of those things loomed very, very large. But yeah, Oscar Goldman was like his, whatever, boss or whatever on that. And he is on today's cruise.
Then we have Hans Conried as Carl Schmidt. You'll say he was in The Monkees, a small part, but he was in 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T.
Ooh.
Have you ever watched any of that?
No, I don't believe so.
And then this I did not know, but I learned in looking him up. He was the voice of Snidely Whiplash.
Oh, wow.
Those weren't ordinary wolves howling up in the hills. True, the majority were of the four-footed species, but their leader was a wolf who got around on 2 feet. His name, Snidely Whiplash. His occupation, warmonger.
You there on the end, the one who used to sing with the 4 aces. You're supposed to come in on the downbeat of the 4th bar, not the 5th. All right, this time we'll give them the old oaken bucket from the top.
He did a lot of voices in cartoons. He was also Dr. Hook in the Peter Pan cartoon.
Yeah, it seems like
Captain Hook.
Captain Hook. He had a really storied career. Like he did a lot, and he had been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. I know him from the Monkey's Paw episode of the Monkeys episode, and from a famous blooper I was telling you about where he's like, I hate these kids because they're like high and laughing and not doing their lines, and he's just totally old and professional. All right, who else do we have?
We have Carol Lynley. She played Carol Gilman. She basically was like a child model and then turned actress, but I did learn she posed in Playboy in the 60s, early 60s. Then next we have Diana Muldaur. She played Laura Akers.
Oh, yeah, she was great.
She was great. And I think she was most popular, I guess, from L.A. Law and McCloud. And then we have Ben Murphy, who played Paul Dunbar. He was in a bunch of shows, and he was a star of a show called Alias Smith and Jones. It was like a Western. Do you recall that one at all?
Just a name, I think. I don't know that I've ever seen that, though.
And then fun fact, if you grew up we're from Illinois, and he at some point lived in Clarendon Hills when he was younger.
Oh, wow, cool. Mm-hmm. I played Clarendon Hills this year. I had the great honor of having clog dancing women open for me at that show. Guys, you need to make it out to some of my shows. You never know what you're going to see.
Then we have Donna Pescow.
Yes.
As Gwen Winters. Everybody knows her. Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
Angie.
Oh, yeah.
She was great and all that. And then finally we had a cameo by Dr. Joyce Brothers.
Yeah.
Which was really weird.
Yeah, one line.
Yeah.
But she got a credit.
She did get a credit. And somebody owed her something, I guess.
Yeah, she's an interesting person that I still don't understand to this day.
No, me neither.
All right, well, let's set sail, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
No. Michelle?
Yeah?
This cruise starts with Doc, in a really good mood. Mm-hmm. That ain't going to last for long.
No, not
because his cranky mentor is on this cruise. Doc approaches him because he hasn't seen him for quite some time. And let me just let him lay down the law of what has happened since Doc and he last spoke.
Dr. Akers. Bricker? It can't be. Adam Bricker, the boy wonder? What on earth are you doing here?
Well, I finally found a way to combine business with pleasure. I'm the ship's doctor.
Why, you remember Bricker?
Of course. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. I see you've already met Julie McCall.
Yes, we've had it before.
I can still taste that chili you used to make.
Well, that's the longest case of heartburn I've ever heard of.
Well, you can see where I ended up. What about you? Are you still chief surgeon at City Hospital?
No, I'm no longer practicing. Actually, I had nothing to say about it. It seems our car got into a slight misunderstanding on the freeway with the station wagon. So, plastic. Naturally, I had to retire. Well, what good's a doctor who can't play golf? Well, it's a pleasure meeting you. We'll be seeing each other.
I'd love to.
So, Michelle, I love this, honestly, because he hits his arm to show that it's made of plastic. Right. He has an awesome black glove on it, like a leather driving glove. And these are the types of things, because in $6 Million Man, Steve Austin, he had a bionic arm. I wanted a bionic arm and a bionic leg so you could jump, a bionic eye. So it was kind of almost like... Do
you think it was intentional, like his character?
Maybe.
Instead of a bionic arm, you have an immobile plastic arm.
Yeah, so it's heavy drama right away. And, this guy is going to prove to be a real crank and a half based on his accident. So, Michelle, when you're coming from Clarendon Hills, it's a super nice, plenty, pleasant sort of suburb, but it can be a little bit boring. So you get on a cruise, and even if you're sort of about to get married, right, you may just want to hit on the first woman that you see when you get on board.
I mean, yes, she was very pretty, but geez, you just walked on the ship and you're there with your fiancé.
Who are we talking about?
You're talking about Donna Pescow, Carol Lynley, and Ben Murphy.
Yeah, Ben Murphy's just kind of he comes across like a total sleaze as he gets onto the ship, and he does cruise this young woman that turns out to be his fiance's best friend.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm sorry. It's my fault. I was just looking for my makeup.
Makeup? You don't need it. How can you improve on perfection?
Ah, well, thank you.
Listen, could I interest you in the moon?
Huh?
I'm an expert on the moon. Really. I'll tell you what. Meet me on the promenade deck tonight at 11 o'clock. And I'll point it out to you.
Oh, well, I'll have to have time to think about that. I just thought about it. I'll see you at 11.
When Mr. Schmidt came on the ship, you knew he meant business. What kind of business? In the beginning, I wasn't so sure.
Yeah, I was nervous.
I was too, because we've had episodes where the captain's been under scrutiny, and that's who he made a beeline for as soon as he walked on the ship.
Yeah, he targeted Captain Stubing.
Exactly.
And then Captain's just trying to be like his typical sort of like congenial self, really. And Mr. Schmidt leaves some sort of foreboding message.
Captain Stewie, sir.
Yes?
Your copy of the passenger list, sir.
Smith, Mr. and Mrs. What's this?
Marmalade, sir.
Mr. and Mrs. Marmalade.
No, it's just plain marmalade. I was going over the list at breakfast. Here's your copy of the weather report, sir.
Thank you. Southwesterly winds, 5 knots, light seas, and a possible increase in...
Maple syrup.
When I told you I wanted you to eat, sleep, and drink your work, I meant it as a figure of speech.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Well, from now on, bring me reports with less calories.
Oh, Captain, are you always so informal with your crew, Captain?
Well, I'm not exactly Captain Bligh. Mr.
Schmidt, Carl Schmidt.
Ah, Herr Schmidt.
Tell me, Captain, you like your job here?
Like it? I love it. Why?
Because you may not have it much longer.
Yeah, so I was a little scared. I didn't know what this meant. I had no idea, and it made me a little bit nervous because this guy is kind of a character that could be sort of like an omen of some kind.
Definitely could have been a stickler.
But pretty quickly, we realized that it isn't necessarily awful news. It is, on the surface, good news.
Herr Schmidt, may I sit down?
Oh, by all means, Herr Captain.
Thank you. But this morning, you said something that, I must say, has left me a bit disturbed.
Oh, that you may not have your job much longer?
Yes. Forgive my bluntness, but what exactly are we talking about?
Nothing sinister, I assure you. Tell me, Captain Stewie, have you ever heard of a ship called the Lorelei?
That's like asking a quarterback if he's ever heard of the Super Bowl. It's only the finest luxury liner afloat.
Have you ever seen her?
Yes. Once. They broke the mold when they built that ship. If she were a painting, she'd be hanging in the Louvre.
Then what would you say, Captain Stewie, if someone told you that you are being considered for the captain of the Lorelei?
What would I say? Any captain would sell his soul to stand on that bridge.
I represent the owners of the Lorelei, Captain, and you are being considered for that position. And my feeling is that you are our man.
Serious?
Quite serious.
So he basically wants to poach him for the exotic Lorelei.
You know what's weird about all this? I think you and I would be upset by the idea of Captain Stubing leaving, and the whole crew is basically totally cool with it.
Well, because it's like the top tier cruise ship, so everybody aspires to be a part of this ship, apparently.
You know what I would have thought would have been more fun?
What?
Is if like they really tried to screw it up the whole time, but like then the captain doesn't really want to leave.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I was kind of thinking that's what was going to happen before it actually started being the complete opposite. Like you said, they were like encouraging
They were
it.
overselling him the
Yeah.
whole time, you know? And it's just, I think it would have been far more funny if they would have been trying to mess stuff up and screw the thing up, but the guy still sees that the captain's a good captain, and ultimately Captain Stubing doesn't go.
I do agree with you on that 100%.
Yeah, it seemed like they missed out on kind of like a lot of pretty good comedy as far as that's concerned. But he does want the captain to go, and I do not like the idea of that at all.
Me neither.
Can you imagine another captain on the ship? I can't.
No, there'd be no more Love Boat without the captain.
You know, Michelle, Donna Pescow traditionally has really bad taste in men, I think, or she just has bad luck with men.
I was going to say, she really does have bad luck.
Remember Saturday Night Fever? Like, she brought the condoms and all that. And
That's so dark.
I know, it was really dark and kind of sad. And then it's like, she's all excited on this. She's seeing her old roommate, and she's all excited to introduce her to a fiance.
But of course, it wouldn't be a Love Boat episode if her fiance wasn't the same gentleman that hit on her friend in the very beginning.
Carol. Oh, hi. Well, where is he? Don't tell me you've broken up already.
He's not getting away. He's one in a million.
Well, he certainly must be. Conservative old Gwen. Marrying a man she's only known a couple of months.
Well, when you meet Mr. Right, you know it.
I was just thinking the same thing myself.
Don't tell me.
Mm-hmm. I met someone.
And you think he's Mr. Right?
Well, he may not be Mr. Right, but he is certainly Mr. Smooth. We barely met when he asked me for a stroll in the moonlight.
Well, where is he? Don't tell me you broke up already.
Oh, Gwen, wait till you see him. You will go absolutely bananas. Here comes Paul. Paul?
Hi,
hon.
Well, my two favorite people finally meet.
Carol, right? Gwen's told me so much about you, I feel I already know you.
Yes, I feel I know you already, too.
Well, isn't this wonderful? All the sun and everything.
Yeah. I bet it's really something in the moonlight as well.
I bet it is. Anybody for margaritas?
Me.
I'll get them. No talking behind my back.
The fiance may have been a heel or started off looking like a heel, but he had that swanky tank top on.
I like that tank top. I like all those looks. I just don't like the shorts. I always hated my shorts in gym, those short sport shorts or whatever, you know?
Yeah, 1970s and 1980s shorts were very short.
The thing I noticed on this ship a lot of men with longish, wavy hair. There were a lot of men, younger men, and they kind of had long hair that they were trying to, like, you know, contain and control. And I don't know why, but a lot of the extras seemed like new type of people. And I was really kind of tripping out on most of that because, you know, the other two storylines were not necessarily grabbing me in the way that I super wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I was rewriting it in my own head as I went along. But yeah, he had a good tank, solid tank. You know, Michelle, someone who's never, ever going to get the pleasure of wearing an awesome tank top again is Dr. Akers.
It's true.
Is it Akers? Was that it? Like, I thought it was a weird name, like it's like aching. He's Dr. Akers. That was his name? Yeah, I don't know. But his plastic arm would be on full display, and it would shock everybody back in that time. And this guy is not having fun on the cruise at all.
Yeah, and I think like he's a miserable person as a result of his plastic arm, so he is really criticizing Doc this whole time.
I remember the first time I assisted at one of your operations.
Las Vegas showgirl, an appendectomy.
How could you possibly remember that?
Well, for one thing, it's the first time I ever saw a patient asked out for dinner in the middle of an operation.
I bet you would have said yes if she'd been awake.
You know, Adam, you were almost as good with that scalpel as you were with the ladies. You'd have made a damn fine surgeon.
Well, I guess my heart was always in general practice.
You know what they say about GPs? In this age of increasing accomplishment, the GP learns less and less about more and more until finally he knows nothing about everything.
While the specialist learns more and more about less and less until finally he knows everything about nothing.
Touché. But why here?
Well, what's wrong with here?
Well, look around you. This isn't exactly the front lines of medicine. I mean, there's important work to be done, lives to be saved. And here you are, Adam, lying in the sun, giving aspirin to vacationing debutantes. Now, what kind of personal accomplishment can you get from that?
Well, it's not all aspirins and sunburn. We've had emergencies
Adam,
here.
Get the most out of life that you can. You never know when it might suddenly be taken away. See you later.
This episode shows Doc's internal fortitude and strength because this doctor, this surgeon guy, is reaming him left and right throughout this entire cruise. And this is the guy that he looks up to. This was his mentor. And he is just brutal to Doc. And Doc does not lose it ever.
No, he keeps it together because it's his, like you said, it's his mentor. So he can't really.
I would have ripped off his other arm like the Sasquatch in the $6 Million Man and beat him to death with it, because this guy deserved a beating regardless of what sad fate, he had met. Oh my God, he was a total dick.
Oh, I have that down here. Dr. D.
He was, though.
He totally was.
He was an absolute ass throughout the entire cruise.
And as we've learned throughout the episode, because we first noticed when they're at dinner at night, is also making his wife suffer.
He was totally a jerk. And then he mocked even the food that he was eating.
Well, it was a tough steak. I was watching.
It did. It looked very gray.
It looked very overcooked. So when you have one hand to work with,
but you don't have to tell everybody
to cut through that steak.
You're supposed to have a little decorum and not maybe mention it to the entire table, especially in front of the captain, and you ridicule the entire dinner that whatever PJ Muldoon was slaving over all day.
Should have just picked it up with his good hand and just ripped it right apart in his mouth.
Dr. Akers, I understand you were a pioneer in open-heart surgical techniques. It must be very satisfying for you knowing that you've saved many lives that would have been lost 20 years ago.
Thank you very much, Captain. It's the job of a doctor to save lives. Although I've noticed lately some of my colleagues are much more interested in having a good time. I used to be much more handy with a knife.
Let me help you.
I don't need any help, thank you. If this steak were a patient, we'd have to notify the next of kin.
Oh, God. During this, though, I did love watching him struggle to cut the meat with one hand and then, out of pride, refusing anybody to help him during the whole thing.
Right.
And causing everyone to be completely uncomfortable and ruin the cruise for everyone. Because it's an honor, right? Your grandmother, she loved when she'd get to go to the captain's table or whatever.
Oh, she did. She'd always brag about it when she'd come back from a cruise and she'd be like, we got to sit at the captain's table.
Yeah, so she was having a good time. But, in his defense, she didn't lose her arm in some horrible car accident.
No, she wasn't carrying around a lot of anger with her when she was just wanting to have a good time. Someone who wasn't having fun on this cruise was his wife.
Oh my gosh.
You see her pull out her little pill box.
Her awesome pill box. I want one of those things so bad.
Start popping, and Doc notices right away.
Guys, she's a pill popper.
We don't know what yet, but she's popping something.
And this is the thing. Prior to us finding out about the whole gravity of her addiction, she actually, the doctor still being a total tool to Doc, the surgeon, and the wife gets a moment with Doc and confides in him and kind of gets him up to speed as to what she's been living through this entire time.
Glad I ran into you. I wonder, would you like me to show you and Miss Akers around Puerto Vallarta tomorrow?
Well, thank you very much, Adam, but I think I'll spend the day lying on deck with the other invalids.
Art.
But thank you very much, Adam, for the offer. I'm glad to see that you're branching out. Part-time doctor, part-time tour operator. Not bad.
Oh, Dr. Akers.
Knife.
I'm sorry. He gets like this sometimes. He doesn't mean the things he says.
I don't know him anymore.
Surgery is his whole life. It's the only thing he ever wanted to do. Since the accident, he feels useless.
But he's not useless. With his surgical knowledge, he could teach at any medical school in the country. He could write books.
I know. Tried to tell him. He won't listen to me. He won't listen to anyone. I'm sorry you had to see him like this. He was always so fond of you, Adam.
If there's anything I can do...
No, I'm afraid there's nothing anybody can do.
What I thought was interesting on this episode, too, is in the spot at night where you generally have romantic encounters of two couples with the moonlight and the stars behind you, the two best friends were talking, and her friend confesses that her fiancé tried to pick her up, and they were supposed to meet later that night to watch the stars.
Al, where have you been? Why don't you join us for dinner?
Oh, I'm not hungry.
All right, out with it. What don't you like about it?
Oh, nothing. You're just imagining things.
Carol,
Look, believe me, it's not important.
it's very important to me. I'm going to be spending the rest of my life with this guy.
Remember, you're the one that dragged this out of me.
Go on.
Well,
Your fiance and I bumped into each other before you came on board.
So?
He's the man that asked me out for a date tonight. No. I'm supposed to meet him on the promenade deck at 11.
I don't believe you.
But why would I lie?
Paul wouldn't do that.
Why don't you go up to the promenade deck and see for yourself?
I just might do that.
If you were Donna Pescow, would you be mad at your friend? Would you believe your friend? How do you think you would react? Because that's a hard thing to take, you know?
I mean, I guess I would believe my friend for sure. But then I would also be mad at her or just mad at the situation because he immediately hit on her within like a few minutes of being on the ship.
Here's the thing. Everyone is younger, I think, than we think. So this guy probably is like 25 or something.
Right.
And he's like, engaged to be married. And that is pretty young. And sometimes you don't make the most awesome decisions. And then especially for guys, the whole pressure of like, I'm going to be married to the same woman for the rest of my life. And maybe you do something stupid. The thing that I found weird is, how are you going to get away with like being with somebody on a ship? Like, I know that there's like 600 people on the ship, but you're bound to maybe bump into somebody or whatever. It just seems like a really bad idea.
Well, and I was thinking the same thing. Like it's your first night, and what are you going to tell your wife? I mean, usually you're going to, get.
What do you think you're, Peter Marshall?
Right. You're going to have some drinks and probably some canoodling, and then you're going to be like, oh, at 11 o'clock, I'll be right back.
Maybe that book was on sale in the gift shop, like the Peter Marshall's book, and you read like the foreword of it, and then you got all inspired, like, hey.
Maybe instead of a Bible, they found it in a drawer.
But poor Donna Pescow, she's so sweet. And,
she is positive.
Oh my gosh! And then she was all excited that she's going to introduce her friend to her fiance, and then she gets this heavy news.
So they come up with a plan that caused me major anxiety to watch.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is the total
Three's Company.
Three's Company. Ugh.
It was giving me like Three's Company PTSD.
You still there?
I'm still here. But what happened to Paul?
Well, maybe he got cold feet.
Maybe you just can't stand to see two people happy together.
Hey, I'm your best friend. I don't want him to show up as much as you do.
Carol?
Sorry.
I've been trying to get you alone all day. You must think I'm a heel, huh?
Uh-huh. First class.
Well, it's always nice to be tops in your field. Look, I don't have much of an explanation, except that some of my friends threw me a farewell party. They were kidding me about all the fun I was going to miss on this cruise now that I'm practically an old married man. Anyway, I guess it kind of got to me because when I saw you,
You thought you'd have a fling with me?
Uh-huh. The most beautiful girl I could find. Of course, 1 minute after I made the date, I was sorry. Because Gwen means everything to me. I guess what I'm trying to say is I won't be meeting you or anybody else in the moonlight. I mean that, Carol. I'm very much in love with your best friend.
Gwen, you are absolutely right. Oh, I think that we've got a problem. Yes, a problem.
If only she would have stuck around a few minutes longer, she would have seen things turned out well.
I disagree. I think Donna Pescow should have ran to the very, very other end of the ship. I think this guy is going to be a future focus of a Netflix documentary because this guy, he's going to do something horrible down the line. I don't have high hopes for, what was his name? Paul something or other? Paul Clarendon?
Paul Dunbar.
Paul Dunbar is going to be Donna Pescow's undoing. I'm sorry. I don't think that things are going to work out with this couple. But hey, you're right. She should have stuck around because she would have heard him pledge his love to her.
It was a weird turnaround, wasn't it?
It was, but for like a lighter, whatever type of a scene, they did a good job. You only have so many minutes. They had the full hour 36 to work with last time. They only had a measly, whatever it is, 48 minutes or whatever in this episode. So she did the right thing.
I guess you're correct.
The real stress, Michelle, of this episode for us is the idea that Captain Stubink could be lured away to another ship and take him away from our beloved Pacific Princess. And Mr. Schmidt, he's been monitoring things. I mean, I'm sure he's done his, extensive German research on him, and he knows probably most of what he needs to know. He then offers the captain the job.
Yes, he does.
All
Ah, Captain Stubing.
Oh, Captain. It was a great idea you're changing course like that. It's like sailing on glass. He's incredible, isn't he?
Excuse me, pina coladas, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Oh, too bad. Ever since the captain suggesting adding grenadine, we haven't been able to make enough of these.
Mr. Smith, Miss McCoy, what's come over you two?
Us?
I think I know, Captain. They're obviously trying to help you make a good impression, so I will hire you for the Lorelei.
That's impossible. I haven't told anyone about that.
Crews have a way of finding out these things.
Is that what you were doing? I apologize for them, Herr Schmidt.
Oh, please don't, Captain. Crew loyalty is an excellent sign. Although I've already made my decision. The job is yours, if you want it.
Captain, you did it!
Congratulations, sir. You're going to be a biggie.
Wait a minute. I haven't said yes yet.
Oh, but you will, won't you?
Of course he will. If he didn't, he'd be a stupid jerk. A less than intelligent person, in my opinion.
That offer really changes the captain's mood.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I was relieved based on that. I could see that the captain was not immediately enamored with rock star success of the Lorelei.
No. I think, he's tortured is a strong word, but he's torn to see what should he do.
The thing that I found interesting is his behavior afterwards, because it starts to manifest itself where he starts acting gruff and snippy with the entire crew in earshot and eyeshot of Herr Schmidt.
And I said, oh, in that case, I'll take a piece of that.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
I will not stand for dawdling when we have passengers who may be needing your assistance. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, but I was just telling a joke, sir. See this guy?
If we want jokes, I'll hire Bob Hope. Now get back to work. And forget the ad-libbing. And you, Mr. Washington, did you forget your breakfast this morning, or are you planning on eating up all our profits?
Captain, it's a beautiful day today, isn't it?
Well, thank you for the weather report. But I would prefer your report on the guest entertainers for next week. Your report that is 2 days late. Morning.
Captain,
Yes.
weren't you a bit severe?
When I command a ship, I do things my way.
But you can't.
And I would greatly appreciate if you would tend to your business and allow me to tend to mine. In short, Herr Schmidt, bug off.
Michelle, this episode was kind of, in a way, a little uneventful. You know, the last one was so epic, and there was some really, really great stuff on it. And there's some cool topics on this, but it was a little haphazard, a little ham-fisted. There were two things that kind of saved a little bit of that for me. One of which, you guys, the candle holder was back.
I did see that, and I thought of you.
Oh, I was so happy. I was like, because earlier on, when the captain first was talking to Herr Schmidt, and we did not know what the offer was yet, Herr Schmidt beelined for the Pirates Cove, 'cause that's the place to be. And the captain comes in concerned of what news he had for him. And then there was the candle holder, the good luck candle holder, showing that it wasn't bad news. And the other thing was Johnny Disco.
I was just going to say, you know who else is back?
Go ahead. Where was he?
On the dance floor.
Oh, you better believe Johnny Disco's on the dance floor. And so I was super happy. Even though it was like a blink of an eye, he was there.
It was enough for me to notice.
We are ridiculous.
I do wish somehow I could find out who the actor is and what his story is, that he's basically on every single episode.
Well, maybe, just maybe if you'd stop popping pills, Michelle, for 1 minute, you'd be able to find out that information, because you and Mrs. Akers, I found that weird too, that Doc kept calling her like Mrs. Akers. Like he didn't call, like it was his, his friend's mom or something like that. That she comes stumbling down the hall in the throes of addiction.
I'm sorry I blew up at you. I know you meant well.
But I'm just not qualified?
Oh, come on now. I didn't mean that. What
I don't feel very well.
What's the matter?
Oh, it hurts.
Can you walk?
boy, please.
Go down to my office. Ask the nurse for my medical kit and bring it to your cabin.
Maybe all she needs is to lie down for a little while.
Don't argue. Go. Come on.
Well?
Your wife is suffering from withdrawal.
Withdrawal? You mean that she's addicted to Deazapan?
You're going to be just fine, Miss Akers.
She said they helped her.
She must have been boosting the dosage substantially to be affected like this.
And I kept writing those prescriptions. I never thought of keeping track.
Well, sometimes we're too close to a problem to be able to see it clearly.
Well, I should have been able to see it. I'm a doctor, aren't I? Or I was a doctor. Guess I'm not much of anything anymore. You know what it feels like to wake up in a hospital room and find out that your life is over? Well, I do. I'm about as useful as an airplane with one wing.
Oh, because of your wife. Say it, Arthur. For God's sake, will you finally say it? I'm responsible for your life being over. I insisted on driving that night. You would have seen that station wagon before it was too late.
No, Laura. I never thought that way.
I can't stand it anymore. I can't face what I've done to you. You pretend it doesn't bother you. You make jokes about it. Please. No more jokes. No more.
Yes, we have our second episode in a row dealing with addiction.
Yes, but this one was even heavier. For some reason, alcohol gets treated sort of in a clowny way, although they did take it seriously in the last episode.
Yeah. But
pills, man, pills are no laughing matter.
No, was it tranquilizer she was addicted to?
Michelle? Deazapan. That's what they called it, Deazapan, I believe, is what she's on. And is it, pretty massive. They had to store it down in the in the bottom of the ship or whatever when she came back for her refill. He's like, I got to go down and get them out of whatever storage.
I would have never thought in a million years that they would even have a refill for tranquilizers on a cruise ship.
I don't know. His little whatever medicine case that was all locked up looked pretty heavy duty. It looked like Elvis style, like Dilaudid. He had some pretty serious looking stuff in there. And then if he had even heavier stuff, God knows. But yeah. This guy, this doctor, is like giving him a hard time the whole time, and then he doesn't even realize that he's been just like freewheeling, prescribing these heavy sedatives to his wife, and she is completely addicted to them.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about her, though. She really didn't have to go to Doc for the prescription, because were they not going to Mexico?
What are you gonna do? Hit up a dude on the street? Oh no, you can go to any
really
pharmacy.
Cheap prescriptions and
the pharmacia just will hand that stuff to you.
She could have just got as much as she wanted, but she was just thinking on how to get her next pill because she.
Thank God you're not her best friend. A terrible influence on her. Oh my God! Hey, just wait till we get to Puerto Vallarta. We'll be fine.
You don't need your husband to write you another prescription or Doc. You don't need to break into that medicine cabinet. Yeah. I gotta. Not only do they have the best margaritas, but they have the best prescription drugs.
Oh, God. They don't harass that nurse we've never met before. Right. Let's just go into town.
When the occasional nurse pops up on the Love Boat episode.
Right. Well, we are in Drama Central right now, and I love this stuff because this is super soap opera where she goes stumbling down the hall in her polyester slacks. That was the best. But then, speaking of polyester, we head to the lounge where dancing is taking place, and Donna Pescow is still under the impression that her fiance is an absolute complete heel, and her friend is sort of like
a thief.
Yeah. Well, they do say on the episode that she was the girl in college who would steal everyone's boyfriends.
Right.
So it's like you could see why she was actually being pretty nice to her based on all of that. But they're dancing. Donna Pescow is very upset.
But she's doing that old timey dancing with.
It's my favorite.
Gopher.
Yeah.
There you point your hands and you go in that direction.
So they do kind of a cool, I like this part because it was still serious, but then it kind of turns funny. And it's like they're doing sort of like a choreography using that dance to hash out all of their problems.
They have this dance.
You lead very well.
They think they're going to get away with this? Well, over my dead body.
Excuse me. If there's going to be a fight, why don't you take him and I'll handle her?
You have some nerve hitting on my best friend. And you
You led him on.
You know I wouldn't do a thing like that. You just said I was your best friend.
Was is the key word.
She is your friend. All she tried to do was protect you from me.
And a good thing, too. We all know what kind of person you turned out to be.
Well, I have to go now. Now, hold it! I've had enough. Off to here with this. Carol is not my type at all.
Don't you insult my friend.
Hey, what's wrong with my type?
Nothing. I like you very much.
Well, you can have her.
Listen, honey, when I want a man, I'll get him for myself. I don't need your leftovers.
Leftovers? Paul is a very desirable, handsome, terrific guy. Any woman would love to get her hands on him.
Oh, she wanted you until you made a complete jerk out of yourself. Now you owe her an apology.
Wait a minute. I don't have to apologize to her. I happen to love her.
Well, I love her too.
Oh, yeah? Well, you guys.
Don't you just love happy endings?
Best thing about all of this, Michelle, and I don't know if I'm going to play it or not, but it ends with like disco. It kicks into disco right after. The music is pretty serious during it, but the second everything turns good, disco starts to play.
Who's right there?
Who?
Isaac.
Oh, yeah, he's ready to
Totally
dance.
gets right into it immediately.
Yeah.
I thought it was...
Well, because Isaac set this all off, and he actually got insulted by Donna Pescow in a way, and he handled that pretty well. But he was the one who gave her sort of like the encouragement to not give up on her husband-to-be and best friend. The crew, man, they're all magic.
They really are. Doc's carrying a lot of heavy loads on this cruise.
He really is.
Not only is he being tortured by his mentor, but then the captain comes to him for some heavy advice.
Ren. Good evening, Doctor.
Captain.
Retiring early.
Working late.
Yes. Well, I don't want to interrupt. It wasn't important.
Merrill, the big decisions are never easy, are they?
You know about the Lorelei, too?
I think there's one crew member that doesn't, and he's on shore leave.
What would you do?
That's too easy. Doesn't it depend on what you want out of life?
Health, happiness, love.
Success?
What is success?
Believe me, that's something I've been thinking about all week. But I think you just answered your own question. Health, happiness, and love.
Can you imagine the captain on the Lorelei? I don't think he'd have as great of a crew.
I don't think he would either. I don't think they would be as fun and loving. I think it'd be strictly business.
He'd start taking Deazapan, and we don't want to see that. I like the captain the way that he is.
I do too.
You know, we had every reason to really loathe the surgeon, really.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he went through a very traumatic thing, he was taking it out on everyone, and I don't appreciate that. But they did handle this kind of cool, because I didn't see that the wife was carrying this whole burden of guilt.
That was a plot twist for sure.
Yeah, but it really is cool because she was the one who was driving when it happened, and it did completely alter this person's life, or in a lot of ways, like he was thinking ended his life, the thing that he thought he was, put on earth to do.
Correct.
He didn't even realize that. He was just making these terrible, dark jokes because that was his sort of way of handling the whole thing. And then these two, based on all of this, I think it's so funny how quickly she recovered from
her overdose.
Yeah.
We did give her a shot of something that would
like
help
what?
her bounce back.
Like what, a vitamin B shot?
I don't know.
But they both apologized to one another. He more so to her. And I thought that was actually kind of cool.
Arthur?
I'm right here, baby.
I'm so sorry I made that scene.
You need sleep.
Maybe you'd be better off without me.
Baby, it was an accident. It was nobody's fault. I was so busy feeling sorry for myself, I didn't see what was happening to you. I'm sorry. Lorna, I know I said my life was over, but I was wrong. But my life
will be over the day that I lose you, and I'm not gonna let that happen. Ever.
Hallelujah.
What?
The captain, he does not take the job.
He doesn't?
He does not. He prefers to stay on the Pacific Princess.
But again, I still thought like the crew was a little too cavalier about the whole thing. And, could have showed some. I still would have liked better. Maybe I'm missing something, but I think it still would have been great if they were doing things to screw it up, to keep him on. And then I know that that's like also like a cliche in and of itself, but I still think that that's a fun one to follow.
I agree. It could have used a little more humor, I think, this episode to combat the heavy drug addiction one. And that, I think you're correct. It would have been a lot funnier. And it is a classic comedy shtick, but
some
so
are
what?
worth repeating. I think some are worth repeating, and that would have been the one, because it would have made it so much more fun, and the captain wouldn't have had to be like sort of like nasty to anybody, and I think it just would have been way more fun. I hate to be critical, but I do believe it would have been way more fun. But yeah, the captain's gonna stay.
Had the most beautiful weather we've had since I've been sailing. We've been very fortunate, let me tell you.
Excuse me, Captain.
Yes?
Mr. and Mrs. Conroy are celebrating their 40th anniversary this evening, and I took the liberty of saying that you join them for a moment.
Miss McCoy, if I joined every couple celebrating their anniversaries, I'd never have a second for myself.
Captain Stooping, I'm saving a dance just for you.
Thanks for the warning.
Herr Schmidt, please forgive Captain Stubing. He's not himself.
Miss McCoy.
Really, he never behaves like this. He's actually a wonderful, kind, friendly man.
You're overstepping. Do you read me?
And everybody loves him. Well, it's true.
He's only reacting to the pressure that I put on him. Believe me, Julie, it would take more than this for me to change my mind about Captain Stubing.
That's what I was afraid of. The truth is, I don't want the job.
But, sir, the Lorelei is everybody's idea of success.
But your idea of success is something else.
Yes. To me, there is nothing more successful than this ship and this crew.
Niagara Falls, Paris, France, Clarendon Hills. Those are the three spots that people love to go for their honeymoon. And I do believe Donna Pescow and her future murderer husband, they are going to get hitched. The best friend will probably be the maid of honor.
I think you've got a good fan fiction story to write.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe let's work on that. But yeah, these guys, they're happy, as they should have been all the way through the cruise. And they say their goodbyes.
Isaac, thank you. If it weren't for you, I might be leaving alone.
And thank you, dear Isaac, for all your really good advice.
And I want to thank you, too.
What for?
I don't know. I just hate to be left out.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
As far as also altering this, speaking of fan fiction, I do believe they should have made the surgeon's arm bionic.
Yeah.
But I guess it wouldn't have been sad then.
It's true, because that would have been way too cool. But as we learn, he's going to take control of his life, and he's going to write a book.
That's awesome, though. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. Quite honestly, in life, most of what we think we're going to get, we don't get.
Right.
And it's the thing that happens is sometimes the things that do happen to you, even the bad things, lead you to something better or lead you to something you never would have considered or looked at. And maybe might even be better than the thing that you originally thought. And I thought that this was also a very nice ending. Although, again, her recovery was
very
beyond
quick.
Dramatic.
Well, she is going to check herself into rehab when they get back.
Yeah, pretty cool, though. I thought it was pretty cool. And Doc was just amazing because he did not get mad and he didn't snap at this guy. He was, it was pretty awesome, I thought.
Adam, thank you for the name of the clinic.
Oh, don't mention it. But don't expect Lorna's problem to disappear overnight.
I don't. And it's our problem. And we'll solve it together.
Adam, I'm so glad we didn't miss you. What can I say? We're leaving the ship with a whole new lease on life. Did Arthur tell you? He's going to write a book on surgical techniques.
I want the first copy that rolls off the presses. Suitably autographed, of course.
Of course. To Adam Bricker, the boy wonder. Never has an intern taught so much to a chief surgeon that didn't want to learn.
Our final goodbye, Michelle. Herr Schmidt.
Mm-hmm.
He's off to a Monkeys episode, the Monkey Paw one, which is a pretty great episode. This ending I really liked a lot.
Yeah.
Because I'm sappy and I love happy. And it was really sweet in the criticism that I have of the crew, being a little too overzealous of the captain taking on this new position. Herr Schmidt, who you think is going to be just like an emotionless person, actually sums it up really nicely. And then the crew kind of just like tops it off.
See us again.
Thanks for sailing with us.
Auf Wiedersehen, Captain. Auf Wiedersehen, Herr Schmidt. I sincerely hope you find the right captain for the Lorelei.
Well, I found him, and I lost him. I'm sure your crew will agree that it does not show weakness in a man to know what he wants in life. And when he's got it, stick with it. Captain Stubing, I salute you. Thank you.
Welcome home, sir.
Yeah, welcome home, Captain.
Thank you.
So, not the most outstanding episode, but it was a good episode. And I really was, appreciative of this one after the marathon one. It was just nice to have, a nice, solid...
That's true.
A little confusing, but some pretty cool, interesting topics.
Just an easy episode after all that.
Yeah, definitely. And I really, really enjoyed it. I really wish that they would have done the crew trying to screw the thing up because they don't want the captain to leave. And that's about it. That I think that could have been funnier, and it could have utilized Isaac a bit more on this episode, All right, so guys, we hope you liked this episode. We hope you will join us for the next one. And we hope you will consider, because I do believe we should have kicked it off already, our second and maybe annual, it would be annual, correct?
Correct.
GoFundMe campaign. Last year was wonderful. It was not only to raise money for the show to keep it commercial free, but also just to grow the show like we have. And I do believe we have done that over the year, and we would like to do it twice as much this year. So I have not launched it officially. Maybe by the next episode we will. And I don't like to do the whole teaser thing, but there is something that we're planning to tie into the potential GoFundMe that is going to make good on last year's in a unique way and offer a really extra special episode coming up. I do believe it's episode 26, Charo's Return.
Ooh.
So I don't want to give away any more, but it's already in the works. I've already been talking to people, some of the local donators to the GoFundMe who are close in this area because they need to be nearby to be able to pull this off. So please, keep listening, you guys. We hope to see you on episode 44, and stay tuned for some pretty good and cool information very, very soon. But until then, I am Istvan.
I'm Michelle.
Captain Stubing, please come to the bridge.
And we are
Loving the
Love
Love Boat.